wonderful and a blessed Thursday. On the way to take care of some business. Nobody tells you, man, that God loves you, Christ loves you, and I love you as well. I'm praying for you guys. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, the Taking Home Podcast, where I talk about professional wrestling topics and I put in my matches as Classic Alpha. Professional wrestler of 14 years. Also subscribe to C3 Ultimate Wrestling. That is me and my wife's professional wrestling company. And if you have been paying attention to anything online on Facebook and stuff, the thread was just uploaded. Also get tickets for our 20th show, which will be May 23rd in Dyer, Indiana, back at Harold's Private Venue. Shout out to Miss Kelly and the venue, the establishment, the fans. The place is definitely a dope spot. So, yeah, tickets are on sale now on Eventbrite. They are $5 off online, but they'll be $5 more at the door at bars. God bless you, Raphael. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. I wanted to talk about three guys because these three guys people are talking about in positive, negative, and curious ways. Let's talk about Johnny Gargano first, Mr. Johnny Wrestling. Now, speculation is that he is going to be out the company, and that's why he's been planking, he's been depressed, he's been getting fed to Obafemi. So a lot of people are under the speculation that he may be released. Now, maybe, like I said, I don't try to look forward to people's releases, if that makes sense, but at the same time, that could be a blessing. You can go somewhere, spend more time with family, you can do independent, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. You can do anything. But from the outside looking in, it does look like he is wrapping up his contract, and it looks like he may not renew it, or they don't want to renew his contract. So, still, as far as Johnny, to me, I thought he was a decent wrestler, and I don't mean no offense to that. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. When people was looking at the PWGs and the indie stuff and all of that stuff, I wasn't a big fan of it. I was more of a fan of old school stuff. So if you had like a bully mentality, like a Samoa Joe or something like that, that's what I was looking at. I was looking at guys like that. I was looking more of it like that. I wasn't looking at a whole bunch of the flippy stuff, and that's what some of the older guys call it. Like, he's decent. I think him and Ciampa and NXT, some historic stuff. I think that those guys was doing some great things as singles competitors and the tag team, because they were doing DIY. I thought they were decent, but it wasn't nothing that I wanted to like just see and be like great. I know a lot of people would look at NXT and be like, man, he would be the face of the company, he'd be the face of WWE soon and stuff. You know, they were considered Triple H guys at one point. They were, especially with Ciampa looking like Triple H. I think Ciampa was, when he was on Blackheart and all of that other stuff, looking like Kratos from God of War, thought it was dope. But, you know, he just left not too long ago. So some people would think that his partner will possibly follow suit. If Johnny does leave the company or they let him go, I do think that he will land in AEW to be a part of the tag division with Tommaso. You know, revive matches against the Revival. Hold it down. That was dope. Smile. Anyway, I do think that. I think the independent scene, there's a lot of companies that will have him. Like, as soon as somebody is released, people get picked up. Road Dogg left the company, and he's already in book for a couple of spots. Like, that's just one of those things. He's been buried. I watch he's better. He was in NXT. To me, when he got called up, and even when Tommaso got called up, it was nothing. There's nothing against him. I don't have no vendetta against him, but it was just, to me, I was already at a standstill when watching whole shows as a whole in itself, because it just wasn't exciting. I'm not saying that he's not exciting or whatever. I just thought he was like decent or whatever. I think him and Candice, the stuff with the weight, I heard that was some great stuff too. And I know people are gonna get mad at me about this, but I wasn't watching the way like that. I did see the Indy Hartwell and Dexter Loomis marriage and stuff like that. I thought that was entertaining. But still, like I said, if he does stay and do what he's supposed to do, then that's what he's supposed to do. I know a lot of people put their opinions over people's actual career and what they have going on, right? So some people will be like, oh, well, I wouldn't do that. Oh, you're being buried. I'm like, you don't know these people's situation. And two, maybe that's why you're not wrestling for this company or working for this company. Somebody has to lose. Some people lose more than they win. Some people lose all the time. Some people don't wrestle every week. Some people barely wrestle. That's just one of the give and takes of professional wrestling, right? And like I said, I'm not hoping that he's released or whatever, but if he is, obviously I do wish him the best. You know, there's a lot of money on the independent circuit. There's AEW, there's New Japan, there's a whole bunch of other companies that he could go for if he wants to work there. I mean, a lot of people thought that Drew McIntyre a couple of years ago was going to leave the company. A lot of people thought Asuka was going to leave the company a couple of years ago because they didn't like how they were booked. They didn't like the positions that they were in. And maybe they thought about it, and maybe they were talked out of it, but that was like everybody's thing. Like, oh, they're leaving, their contract is up. It's like, how do y'all know these people's contract is up? They have wrestlers that laugh at people when they say their contract is up when they literally just signed a new contract. Because how do you know this? Like, what are you trying to do? Right? So those things are kind of crazy. I wish he was better. Okay, so still. Speaking of that, I also wanted to talk about Rusev. Now, people are looking at Rusev's return to WWE, and some people were excited for the most part because a lot of people looked at some of the stuff that he said and the speculation of he wanted to do things his way. And when things did not go his way, he'd go to Bulgaria. He'd go home and get paid. Now, look, it's not a lot of jobs to be like, hey, if you don't want to do nothing, we just gonna pay you. But like with the Tony thing, Tony is paying a lot of people to not wrestle to the extent of I will pay you just to stay home. So a lot of wrestlers stay home for periods of time because Tony doesn't need them, but he also doesn't want them to go to WWE. That sounds crazy, don't it? Like, I know a lot of people talking about Vince and all these other guys trying to beg people and give people championships and all of that stuff, but that's some money. That's some crazy money to have to where it's like, hey, I'm not going to use you on television, but I don't want to see you on television somewhere else. So why don't you take this money? And some people take the money. They go out, like I said, spend time with family, do podcasts, sell feed pics, do whatever they want to do. They do all kind of stuff on the free time. You get what I'm saying? But still, Rusev was like definitely one of the ones I felt like he did want to wrestle. Now, here he is wrestling, but sometimes he's not wrestling. Sometimes you don't see him. Him and Oba, they just had their little feud, and then Oba basically beat him. So I don't know what they're going to do with Rusev. But some people are quick to say, oh, he should have stayed in AEW. Oh, I thought he wanted to do this and he wanted to do that. People can change in minutes, not even days. People take days and decades. Sometimes people change in minutes. Maybe he's at a point in his life that he's like, man, I just want to wrestle on TV, or I just want to make a little money, or maybe they're paying him more money than what Tony did, and that's why he's doing what he's doing. A lot of people are like, look at you, you went to another company, and you're not even better off in one than the other. Maybe they are. Maybe it's the work environment, and I always say that. People assume that the company don't like them if they go on a losing streak and stuff, but what's the name? Mercedes Moné is going on a losing streak. Do y'all think that the company is upset with her or she's upset with the company? No, they're doing a storyline that a lot of us know are happening. Me personally, I knew that this was going to go stale quick. I knew this was going to go stale quick because she had too many belts. So now she's losing all of her belts. So that means she has to lose 12 times or whatever. And like I said, her losing the first belt is going to be 10 times more special than when she loses her last belt. And that's just a fact. And I've said that, but still, that's neither here or there for this topic. The thing is, she is losing a lot. She's getting pinned a lot. Doesn't technically mean that the company is disgruntled with her. R-Truth lose a lot. He lost a lot and stuff like that, especially with the comedy character. Mark Henry at one point was considered the world's strongest man. Lost a lot. Tapped out a lot. And he didn't just leave the company. Eventually he did leave, but it wasn't like as soon as, because he was losing a lot. That's just what they had on the docket. And some people just do that. Rusev, I think, gets a little more critique and criticism because he spoke about it. More people heard about how he wanted to do certain things and they had nothing for him, so he stayed home. I don't think it's much to be like, oh, well, he must be leaving, because maybe he is staying. Like I said, I don't know these people's contract. Maybe it's a role that he's doing. Like I've said it before. I've said that wrestling used to have role players. People knew their role. They knew what they were going to do, right? So maybe that's something that he's doing as well. You just never know. Like, you just got to be careful with trying to just try to dictate and try to assume how somebody's work is on TV because you see them on TV. There's dark matches, there's television, there's house shows, there's all kind of other stuff that he could be doing that we're not seeing. Something to think about. Now, Royce Keys, formerly known as Powerhouse Hobbs in AEW, Powerhouse, also known as Willie Hobbs. People are like, where is he at? People are like, man, this dude showed up on Royal Rumble and then he just went missing. Now he has been doing a lot of house shows and dark matches, though. He has. But some people are like, oh, well, that was just a waste of time for him to show up the debut Royal Rumble and to not be on TV. Y'all need to chill out. Y'all need to chill out, respectfully. Not all y'all. Some of y'all cool. A lot of y'all are cool. But look, I'd rather them not use him yet than just throw him out there and then have nothing for him. I mean, y'all will probably treat him like y'all doing the Rusev situation. I know a lot of people, they saw his interview with Stephanie. You know, he spoke about his brother, he spoke about his past, he spoke about a whole bunch of things, and a lot of people like him. WWE had a small vignette of him showing up in Saudi Arabia to get ready for the Royal Rumble. But, you know, like I said, maybe we'll see him more often, you know. I have patience. You know. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of black guys that have the same, this is going to sound crazy, the same build, and sometimes you don't want to intertwine them all together and stuff like that. Or sometimes they may not just have something for him. Maybe he'll make a full time, he'll show up full time on the WWE schedule on Raw and SmackDown after WrestleMania. That's possible as well. And I wouldn't mind that neither. Usually after WrestleMania is like the new season for WWE, because WWE doesn't technically have an off season where, hey, you know, big championship and then after that we're going to take off. No, they don't do that. They're at Raw the following Monday, continuing to do shows and stuff. So, but even then, maybe Royce will be there, right? Like, I don't mind that. I don't think that's a bad thing to possibly wait for to see Keith Lee. You know, with Keith, I know Keith in AEW, it's more of health issues. They're not going into detail, and he doesn't have to. I mean, even when he was in WWE, he had heart problems. You know, when you have a heart problem, it's just hard to like heal 100% from that, especially if you are a wrestler that requires the blood to just be pumping and the adrenaline and all of that stuff. Anything could like mess it up. I mean, we were looking at the Triple H situation where he had to retire because of his heart and having a pacemaker, right? So, still, like, I know some people are like, make fun of Keith Lee, and they make fun of him, and, you know, they talk about, oh, maybe we should have stayed in WWE. I'm like, honestly, probably couldn't because of the health and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm a big fan of Keith Lee or whatever like that, but, you know, health over all of this stuff. You know, he has a wife, Meechin, and he has a wife. So it's like, you know, we want to be there for his wife and for his family and everybody like that. So still, you know, if he's hurt, he's hurt. When he's trying to be right, he's trying to be right, you know. Things happen. They promoted the heck of the podcast to not have him in the program. But and I hear that. Shotzi Arshana critically drinking. I definitely hear that. You know what I'm saying? I hear that because it's like people would think that if you promoted him the way he did, that he would show up. You know, I would say it's a longer vignette stuff of over. And maybe I am giving WWE a little bill than usual. But like I said, what if he shows up and then loses a lot? You know, can they afford to give him a winning streak? Yes, they can. I wouldn't personally do it, but still, you know, it is what it is. You know, if he debuts on SmackDown and loses, then some people gonna get mad and some people may like it or whatever like that. But they did tout him as next in line. You know, a lot of people would assume that he'd be in the class with Trick, Oba, and Javon. Maybe they are just trying to wait for a time. And like I said, I don't have the patience for that. You know, like I said, I was a big fan of him in AEW, but I also felt that AEW did not care about pushing heavyweights like they should. I think AEW tried to do the indie approach. And when I say that, a lot of people know that like in the independent scene, sometimes they want the smallest guy, the guy that does cruiser stuff all day. They want them to be guys as big as Brock Lesnar or even bigger and stuff like that because they want to, because WWE's mindset back in the day, especially Vince, of if you are over 300 pounds and stuff like that, there's no way you should have a match against a guy that's 150 pounds and the match be like 30 minutes long. Like that's the mindset. So some of the independent companies and wrestlers, they're like that. We're like, hey, well, we're going to show you. And most of the time, the matches ain't even that good. They be aight. Honestly, they be aight. Because there's no storytelling and there's no theory in it at all. That's another video. But still, a healthy Keith Lee or Odyssey versus Oba, it definitely would have been cool. definitely cool. You guys know I rock with Oba. I think Trick is dope. I think Javon is dope and stuff like that. And like I said, I do hope that Oba will be the one to face Brock. But at the same time, you know, it may go to Gunther. I don't think Gunther needs it, but still, Gunther is just bullying people at this point or whatever like that. So I guess he'll go against the ultimate bully and Brock Lesnar, you know. But we'll see. I mean, like, we'll definitely see where it comes from. You know, as far as Royce Keys go, hopefully we do see him soon. If not, I have the patience. Like, WWE ain't really putting on a lot of stellar stuff anyway, so it's like to put him on unstellar television, unstellar vision bars. I ain't trying to see that. You know, there are a few things that are interesting on WWE, especially heading into WrestleMania. But honestly, they doing the same Vince approach of, you know, main event guys are main event who's main evented multiple times, guys over 40. You know, I'm not saying they're taking away from younger people, but the younger people don't have no opportunity. You know, Rhea is very young. I don't think she's 30 yet. And, you know, I think Jade is a little bit older. Jade is fresh into the WrestleMania thing. You know, she showed up, what was it, last year? Or was it 40? Yeah, it was 40. So this is her third WrestleMania show. And she's going against, you know, Rhea, who's what? That's like her fourth WrestleMania. So still, I'm just saying, like, I think Vakur and Liv is like a fresh start because of Stephanie. You know what I'm saying? But still, even with that, I hope the match is good. But still, ain't nothing really been stellar. I mean, everybody, you know, with the Roman and CM Punk thing, because these guys are very good talkers on the microphone, obviously, and then the stuff with Jey Uso and stuff, and then a lot of us waiting on Roman, the big dog, talk about Larry, CM Punk's dog that passed away. Like, there's a few things that are interesting here or there, but it's definitely not something that's just like, oh man, it's must-see TV. And like I said, I wouldn't want Royce to just be on there just to be on there for the sake of us. Like, what if they actually listen to us and then just put him in there? Like, what if they put him with Danhausen or something? Nothing against Danhausen, but I don't, you know, what if Danhausen curses him or something? Or he's one of the people that, you know, he's, I don't know. It could go anyway. Kofi never got a rematch with Lesnar. They rarely, sometimes they don't do rematches. Sometimes they don't. Gunther never got his rematch against CM Punk when Seth cashed in on Punk afterwards or whatever like that. Sometimes they just don't do rematches. And I'm okay with that sometimes. At one point they was doing a story where, like, if you lose the belt, you got to earn your way back to a title shot. So I do think they trying to incorporate all that together and still do that. Like, hey, you're going to have to earn a shot. But sometimes they go above and beyond that rule and be like, okay, nah, we're just going to do the rematch. So that's what I think. But I didn't want to speak about that for a little bit. Let me know what you guys think of those three wrestlers. I do hope you guys and gals have a great day. This is Chris Classic. Let's take it home.